Imagine this. Your 5-year-old tips over their glass of milk again. Before the liquid even finishes spreading across the table, you're already grabbing paper towels. Within 3 seconds, you've wiped everything clean and reassured them. Don't worry, sweetheart. These things happen. But in those 3 quick seconds, you've unintentionally taught your child a powerful lesson, one you never meant to teach. You've shown them that cleaning up mistakes is your job, not theirs. This automatic rescue response, this instinct to immediately help, is actually blocking your child from developing genuine responsibility. However, there's a powerful Japanese parenting approach that completely changes this dynamic. It requires just 5 seconds of your time, and surprisingly, it has nothing to do with the words you speak. Let me paint a clearer picture. Your 5-year-old reaches across the table for their water glass. The cup wobbles, tips over, and water floods the surface. Before the water even stops moving, you're on your feet, towels in hand, cleaning up the mess while saying, "It's fine. Honey, 3 seconds flat. Crisis averted." But here's what just registered deep in your child's developing brain. Whenever something goes wrong, help arrives instantly. They're learning to wait passively instead of taking action or consider. Homework time? They're stuck on a math problem, staring blankly at the page. You immediately lean over, explaining each step, guiding them through, essentially solving it for them. But whose problem did you actually solve? Your problem, the discomfort of watching them struggle, not theirs? This pattern is called learned helplessness. And before you start feeling guilty, understand this. This doesn't mean you're a bad parent. Actually, it means the opposite. It means you deeply care. It means your protective instincts are incredibly strong. But here's the issue. Your brain can't always tell the difference between genuine danger and simple discomfort. And that split second rescue reflex is actually costing your child something irreplaceable now. Fast forward 10 years into the future, your teenager can't begin their homework unless you're sitting right beside them. They can't pack for a weekend trip without your detailed checklist. They're calling you from college because their roommate situation feels unfair, and they need you to contact the resident advisor on their behalf. They're 19 years old, and they still can't function independently. This isn't happening because they lack capability. It's happening because they never learned that they are capable. And it all started with something as simple as spilled juice. Here are 3 patterns that create this dependency cycle. First, you move before they even try. Every single time you rush in before they've attempted any solution, you're communicating a subtle message. You can't handle this without me. Over months and years, that message transforms into their internal voice, their self-belief. Second, you interpret normal struggle as an emergency. That furrowed brow, that frustrated nervous system reads these as distress signals. But struggle isn't the same as danger. Struggle is actually how development happens. That frustration they're feeling, that's their prefrontal cortex actively building new neural pathways. When you interrupt the struggle, you interrupt the actual learning process. Third, you solve problems to protect your own comfort. Let's be completely honest here. You're not just helping your child, you're preventing the meltdown. You know exactly how this goes. Struggle leads to frustration. Frustration leads to tears. Tears lead to a 30-minute emotional explosion that ruins dinner and destroys what's left of your patience. So you step in early. You solve it quickly. You maintain the peace. But here's the deeper lesson you're actually teaching. Discomfort must be avoided at all costs. Big emotions require someone else to fix them. Difficult tasks are simply impossible for you to handle alone. This response is completely natural. Every loving parent does this. But here's what you're about to discover something. Most parents never figure out. So what makes the Japanese approach so different? Watch this scenario unfold. A child accidentally spills juice at the breakfast table. The Japanese parent doesn't immediately react. They don't reach for towels. They don't rush over. Instead, they look calmly at the child and simply state, "The juice has spilled," then nothing. Complete silence for 5 seconds. During those 5 seconds of quiet space, something remarkable happens. The child looks down at the spill, registers what occurred, processes the situation, and then independently makes the decision to clean it up themselves. This practice is rooted in the Japanese concept of mimamoro, watching over a child while allowing them to recognize their mistake independently. That moment when understanding clicks, the Japanese call it kizuki, self-realization. And the specific technique to create this moment is what I'm calling the 5-second rule. This isn't about dropped food, it's about the critical window when genuine responsibility is actually born. Here's the typical Western parent response. Spill happens. Parent instantly reacts. Towel appears. Child barely registers what happened before the problem vanishes. The child's takeaway. Messes happen to me and someone else always fixes them. But in the Japanese approach, the lesson becomes messes happen, and I have the ability to address them. In those 5 crucial seconds, your child's brain fundamentally shifts from passive receiver to active problem solver. From "this is happening to me too, I can do something about this." From dependence to agency. Here's the 5-second rule explained simply. When your child creates a mess or encounters a challenge, you calmly acknowledge it, then pause for 5 full seconds. You create space and silence, giving them the opportunity to notice the problem themselves and choose to take action. This isn't about speed. It's entirely about agency, giving them ownership. Now, you're probably thinking, 5 seconds of silence. My child would just sit there doing absolutely nothing. And honestly, you might be right the first time, maybe even the first 10 times. But here's what really matters. Every single time you've rescued them before they could act, you've been training them to wait for rescue. You've inadvertently taught them that if they simply wait long enough, someone will always fix it. The 5-second rule doesn't just teach them responsibility. It teaches you restraint. And that restraint, that's where the real transformation begins. Because something truly remarkable happens in your child's brain during those 5 seconds. Here's the neuroscience behind those 5 seconds. When you pause, instead of immediately intervening, you activate what researchers call productive struggle, the optimal zone between too easy and too hard, where the brain forms new neural connections. Those 5 seconds allow your child's prefrontal cortex to activate, assess the situation, and formulate a response. Scientific research consistently demonstrates that children who regularly experience productive struggle develop what psychologists call frustration tolerance, the capacity to sit with discomfort without completely falling apart. Developmental studies identify this skill as one of the most powerful predictors of academic achievement, emotional regulation, and lifelong resilience. But when you rescue too quickly, you're essentially telling their nervous system, you cannot handle this, and their nervous system believes that message completely. Those 5 seconds aren't just about your child's brain development, they're about yours too. When your child struggles, your mirror neurons activate. You literally feel what they're feeling. When they're frustrated, you experience frustration. Your natural instinct is to stop that uncomfortable feeling in both of you by immediately solving the problem. But if you rush in to fix everything, your anxiety signals to them that this situation is actually a crisis. However, when you pause and regulate your own emotions, your calmness becomes contagious. Your child literally borrows your calm. They sense you're not panicked, which helps them realize the struggle is actually manageable. Think about teaching your child to ride a bicycle. You're holding onto the seat. If you never let go, they'll never learn balance. But when you release your grip, when you allow them to wobble, catch themselves, and adjust, that's precisely when real learning occurs. The 5-second rule is you releasing the bicycle seat. Your child's prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for decision-making and problem-solving, doesn't fully mature until their mid-20s, but it only develops through actual use. It functions like a muscle. Every time you step in and solve their problem for them, you're essentially doing their brain's workout for them. Those 5 seconds activate a specific part of your child's brain that exclusively develops through self-directed problem-solving. You cannot develop that capacity for them. You can only create the space for it to grow naturally. So how do you actually implement this in real life? First, observe without reacting. This is much harder than it sounds. Your instinct will scream at you to move, speak, fix immediately. Instead, take a breath. Notice your urge to rescue. Consciously choose not to act just yet. Second, count silently to 5. This countdown isn't for your child, it's for you. Those 5 seconds allow your rescue instincts to settle down. It gives them processing time. Third, model supportive calmness. Remain still, but keep your facial expressions soft and warm. This isn't the cold, silent treatment or an angry stare. Your child reads your face to determine whether they're in trouble or simply in a challenging situation. Your warmth communicates you're safe and you're capable of handling this. Fourth, prompt without fixing. After 5 seconds, if they still haven't moved, try, I notice the block spilled everywhere. If they stare blankly, ask a smaller guiding question. Where does the block container usually go? You're keeping them in control. Just offering a gentle map. Here's what this looks like in actual practice. A parent recently shared her experience implementing this method. Her daughter was pouring rice into a small bowl. She tilted the container. Too much and rice scattered everywhere. The parent's immediate instinct, grab a towel, sweep it up, problem solved in seconds. Instead, she forced herself to pause. She counted silently. Then she calmly said, I see the rice spilled. Then silence. Her daughter looked at the mess, looked at her mom, looked back at the mess. 8 seconds passed longer than 5, but who's really counting? Then suddenly, I need the broom. She got it herself. She swept it up. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. Did her mom secretly re-sweep after bedtime? You bet. But because the mom didn't immediately fix it in that moment, what the child learned was worth infinitely more than a spotless counter. She learned a fundamental truth. I have the ability to fix my own mistakes. Watch how this completely transforms the entire dynamic. Before the 5-second rule. Mom, I spilled. You immediately jump up, grab towels, frantically clean while repeatedly saying, it's okay, it's okay. Child passively watches you fix everything. 3 minutes later. Mom, I spilled again. After the 5-second rule, I spilled. You pause, you remain seated. 5 seconds pass, I see it spilled. What do you think you need? Child looks around. The towels are right there. They grab them. They whip them perfectly but independently. Next time they spill, they don't even call you. They simply grab the towels themselves. That's responsibility forming in real time, right before your eyes. If they genuinely need help after attempting it themselves, offer the absolute minimum assistance necessary. Hold the bottom of the jacket while they work the zipper. Hand them the towel while they wipe the spill. You're supporting the process, not doing it for them. And here's the crucial part. Celebrate effort, not just outcomes. I noticed you cleaned that up all by yourself. You kept trying with that zipper, even when it was tricky. You figured out how to fix that problem. This reinforces the exact behavior you want to see more of, not giving up when things get difficult. Your homework assignment tonight. When your child struggles with something small, getting dressed, a dropped toy, spilled water, wait 5 seconds. Don't announce what you're doing, just pause. Count silently in your head. Observe what naturally happens. And if you're thinking, that won't work with my specific child, let's address those concerns directly. Common objections answered, but my child has complete meltdowns when they're frustrated. I don't want to trigger them. Developmental psychology draws a clear distinction here. Some frustration is precisely what drives growth, not overwhelming distress, but manageable frustration. That's the productive struggle zone we discussed earlier. If they're escalating toward a genuine meltdown, past the point where any learning can occur, then yes, absolutely step in, but with emotional support, not instant solutions. Try. This feels really hard right now. You're feeling frustrated. Take a breath with me. What could you try next? You're teaching them to regulate emotions through challenges, not avoid challenges entirely. I don't have time for 5-second pauses when we're rushing out the door in the morning. You're absolutely right. So don't practice brand new skills during morning chaos. Practice during relaxed weekend afternoons, during playtime, during dinner prep. Build the foundational skill when you actually have time. Then during time crunched moments, you can say, we're leaving in 2 minutes. I see you're working on those shoes. What do you need? As they develop competence, those morning moments actually become faster, not slower. They're no longer waiting for you to solve everything. They won't do it unless I constantly push. They'll just walk away and completely ignore it. This is learned behavior. They've learned through repeated experience that if they ignore something long enough, you'll eventually handle it. So now you add a calm, clear boundary. I see the toys on the floor. They need to be picked up before screen time starts. Not angry, not nagging. Just calmly connecting their action to a natural consequence. The first several times, they'll absolutely test this boundary. Your consistency matters more than anything else here. Screen time simply doesn't happen until toys are picked up. Number, anger. No lectures. Just calm, predictable follow-through. After a few consistent experiences, they learn. Mom's not rescuing anymore. I might as well just do it now. That's responsibility actively forming. What if my child has ADHD, anxiety, or other developmental challenges? The 5-second rule still completely applies. It just requires thoughtful adjustment. For children with ADHD, executive function research suggests those 5 seconds might include pointing directly to the mess. I see the juice there. Where do we keep the towels? You're still giving them agency and ownership, just with more scaffolding and structure. For anxious children, co-regulation research emphasizes the value of, you can handle this. I'll stay right here beside you while you try. The core principle doesn't change. Pause, prompt, support minimally. The specific application adjusts to your individual child's needs. This takes genuine practice for both you and your child. You're unlearning years of automatic rescuing. They're unlearning years of automatic dependence. Give it time. Give it consistency. Give yourselves grace. The transformation doesn't happen in one single 5-second pause. It happens through hundreds of them, accumulated over weeks and months, until responsibility becomes your child's natural default response, not the rare exception. Here's what fundamentally changes when you pause. When you rescue immediately, you teach dependence. When you pause for 5 seconds, you teach capability. The spilled juice. The scattered toys, the stuck zipper, these aren't just inconveniences interrupting your day. These are hundreds of tiny moments where responsibility is either learned or lost forever. But here's the challenge most parents encounter next. Your child learns to take responsibility for their mistakes. They clean up spills independently. They pick up toys, but they still won't put on their shoes without 3 separate reminders. They still won't brush their teeth without being told. They still need you to manage every single daily transition because responsibility for mistakes is fundamentally different from self-discipline for routine tasks. And that's exactly what the next video covers, the Japanese principle that teaches children to regulate themselves from the inside out. How kids learn to manage their own behavior without constant reminders, threats, or exhausting power struggles. It's the missing piece that makes the 5-second rule actually stick long term. Make sure to watch it next.